Attention all business owners. Are you tired of managing your finances and taxes on your own? Let the experts at 1-800-TAX-MASTERS help. Our team of experienced professionals offers a range of services to help you keep your finances in order, from personal and business tax returns to monthly accounting, quarterly and annual tax planning, and virtual controller and CFO services. With our virtual services, you can get the support you need without ever having to leave your office. Don't let taxes and finances stress you out any longer. Visit www.1800taxmasters.com today and let us handle the numbers so you can focus on growing your business. And welcome to another live episode. I am your host, W-I-Z-E. I have a very special guest. This is actually his second time on the show. He's an accomplished keynote speaker, business development expert, and a host of two popular podcasts, Father and Joe and Local Football Flavor. Welcome to the show, Joe Rockey.
Well, thank you for having me back, man. Love being a part of it.
I appreciate you coming back, man. I love having return guests, man. So how's it going, Joe? How's the podcast going, man?
Oh, it's been going great. We're trying to make a difference. I believe we are. With very similar to how your intro was right there. People having all this frustration and emotion going on, and not really knowing what to do with it, really. And that's what we do at Father and Joe is try to relate that every single thing we do in human life is about relations. And we start with the relationship that we have with ourselves, the relationship then that sprinkles out to everyone around us, and then it's all underneath the umbrella of the relationship that we have with God there at Father and Joe. And we find it to be vital. And then in my teachings that I do with elite business conversations, a lot of it comes out of the same thing. How can we make our businesses better? And it normally starts with creating a more and more successful human relation connections. And that's what we go for.
All right. Can you share with us your journey in creating a successful entity and how to manage to keep your business thriving even during tough times like a pandemic?
Yeah, man, it ain't easy, is it? It all starts with those relationships. Whenever we're talking about a business and how to make it successful, how many of us truly know what is going on in the office next door to us, let alone how that's intertwined with what it is that we're doing? So the way to make it successful is you have better communication up and down the platform of your business, and you make it so that every single person can be valued in sharing their opinion and their expertise, even if it's not going to be implemented, because not to say that every idea you get, you move forward with, but at least you know that it can be shared with you. So to give an example, say you have a company and the shipping department realizes that, hey, we keep sending out the same stuff over and over again, and it's being wrong. Well, that gets relayed up the back to the processing department that's doing it. Do they listen and figure out, like, oh, we could have fixed this in the first place instead of sending the same replacement part 16 times? Or is it just this one customer is always the one who's doing the request and no one else cares? Like, maybe we should get rid of them as a customer. Now, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but at least it's something that you can become aware of as you're looking forward in your company. And to be having any type of exposure really creates efficiency in all departments. The more and more people are free to talk and not to be afraid that they're going to lose status within your company because someone else is talking.
So how important is building these relationships and achieving personal and professional success?
I mean, it's everything, man. I mean, the relationships are what's going to guide you to the next level of success. And really it boils down to four things that any of us can do in any relationship right now, and it will make ourselves better. The first is you want to become more knowledgeable and passionate about your topic. So in the space of work, what is it I'm supposed to be doing? How do I get better at it? For most of us, that's why we went to college, to learn the skills of what we're going to do. That's step one. Step two relates to what I just said in the previous answer. Do I have the courage of something that I'm feeling inside of me to get it out there and express it to those around me? And do those around me have the courage to hear that something isn't right from other people around me? It's a two-way street. And then the third one being justice. Justice, of course, being am I hiring this person or doing this action for the right reasons? Am I hiring you because you're the best person I can have given how much money I want to spend on this position? Or am I hiring you because it's going to look good in a press release? And getting that in line is completely important. And then in the personal side, that is, am I hanging out with this person because I want to be a friend with them? Or am I trying to get some status rub off to make me look better? Like you can see in many different social platforms. And then the fourth thing that we all can implement in our lives is an embracing of humility. And what humility truly is not saying that I'm the smallest, most insignificant person in the world, nor is it saying that I'm the biggest and everyone should listen to me no matter what because of my title or what have you. It's saying that, at the end of the day, we're both people here. We're both equal adults as this relationship is stand for, or coworker to coworker. And I'm going to act in accordance to what this relationship should be in the way that I would want it to be. I think you muted yourself, Wise.
Can you share some tips on effective sales techniques for our listeners that they can apply to their business?
Yeah. So it all starts with creating the relationship, as I said, with your client. So what you want to be able to do is break down the barriers, because so many of us are in a buying mindset of I just don't want to get hassled. I don't want to get robocalled. I don't want to get bothered. I mean, we can all think of a time where the historical example is we go to a car dealership and everyone rushes us. So we tell them to go away, but then we realize, oh, we need one of these people so I can actually go test drive this car. And that's the dichotomy that we're in as buyers. We can understand that. And that's why so many people have just flat out stopped going to malls. Amazon doesn't rush and pollute me, although Amazon also doesn't answer any of my questions I have about this product either. They're just buy it
Yeah.
real quick and easy. So the way that we overcome this in the sales world is create a relationship with someone, whether this be a business to business sale or a business consumer sale, it does not matter. You create a professional relationship with the actual purchaser, and you figure out what is driving them to create their purchase. Actually, this is a big part of what the book that I'll be releasing in the second half of the year is about, is because you want to be able to say, hey, I appreciate that, you have to buy some form of this iron ore. And it doesn't have to be for me. I hope it's for me, but it doesn't have to be for me. But let's get into some reality of if you buy the wrong iron ore, what does that mean to you? Is it more important do we get it the quality, the speed, or what have you? But once we can dial it into it's more than just I want to have iron ore, it's this is what happens if I don't get the right stuff, or if I get the best stuff, this is what happens to me. Well, now we've just created a connection and see how we can help each other. Because in the true element of sales, it's not really about you give me money and I move on. It's about are we helping each other? And if we are, we will always work together as long as we are capable. And that's how you build a true sales business, is that I'm not constantly trying to get someone new. I'm trying to perfect the relationships that I have. And you obviously got to be looking for new. I'm not trying to say you shouldn't,
Of
but
course. Yeah.
that's really how you enhance it.
All right. What are some of the common mistakes that people make in business development, and how can they avoid that?
Yeah, there's a lot of pitfalls out there. One of the most natural ones that anyone who started up a startup entity probably has experienced once they get far enough down the road is that what we thought this was going to be isn't really what it ended up being. And it's a startup business. So that's a lot of range for, I didn't know this was going to be this way. I look at my own personal one with Father and Joe. We just hit our 300th episode across 5 years of doing it. We did
Congratulations.
not know exactly that we were going to keep doing this 5 years later. We didn't know what it was going to look like, but we stayed with it. We basically had checking conversations about this is where the business is at and this is where it isn't. Where the problems come in is when someone comes in with a really strong preconceived conception of what this business is going to be, and it's not exactly that. I really do believe that businesses are a lot like children. If we're told, tell me exactly what your business will be like the day the child is born. I need to know how tall he's going to be, the color of his hair, all this stuff, his weight. And then you get disappointed because he's 3 inches shorter or, a couple pounds different. Well, everyone would tell you that that was a stupid idea to try to figure out in the first place. But if you didn't roll with it as time went on, it's how you get there. And that's why it's very important to have communication as we're going through along life, so you don't get blindsided when you find out your kid is 2 inches shorter, or you realize that they even still matter when they're 5 years old. So these are the types of things that I really, have seen people fail, and we've helped people fix and overcome them in terms of business shortcomings or business stallings.
So you mentioned Father and Joe, and for people who didn't see the previous episode with me and you, tell them a little something about Father and Joe.
Yeah, so Father and Joe was created in 2017, right when, for those who don't remember that long ago, the transition between Trump and Obama in this country was not awesome. There's no other way to say that. Basically, the TV said you had to be in one camp or the other, and you weren't allowed to talk to the other side. And we created this because every company or country, civilization, whatever you want to call it, in human history that has stayed down the road of one side can't talk to the other ends up going to a very, very bad place. And the way you fix this is by having communications and having relationships with both sides. This is how we fix problems. I mean, in the 90s, this is what we promoted. We called it reaching across the aisle. And that was the political driving that brought me to the Father and Joe conversation. And what it really evolved into was having much more conversations about the human element and not necessarily about the political element. Now, stuff still comes up, like Putin decided to invade a country and start killing people for really no benefit. So we've had to talk about that, because at the end of the day, it's a conversation of relationships of life. On the one hand, if this guy was dead, there'd be no war. On the other hand, you're rooting for an assassination. So, like, that's a pretty big moral dilemma there. How do we go about that? And then we've discussed all kinds of different topics that all really revolve back to the relationship that you have with yourself, the relationship that you have with others, and then all underneath the umbrella of the relationship that you have with God. And that's how Father and Joe really does go out and help people. And we wouldn't be doing it 5 years later if we weren't making a difference. And that's where I leave it with that.
Oh no, that's awesome, man. I really I feel you when you say you wouldn't continue to do it if you didn't feel like you was making an impact, because that's why I do my podcast. I feel like I'm making an impact. My podcast is reaching a lot of people, and
Mhm.
I'm having wonderful guests on like yourself, and it's helped me. It's helped me grow as a person. I don't know how I tell this to everyone. It's everyone I have on the show. I learn something from them, and for me, it's being able to have these conversations and be able to show people like, hey, there's all different types of people, all walks of life, and we all want the same thing. We might all be different in different ways, but at the root of it all, we all want happiness. We want success. We want our family to be healthy and well. When it boils down to it, that's all we really truly want inside. And so, like you said, it's a great big divide. It's either red or blue, and I don't agree with that.
Mhm.
It's we're all one people. We need to, yes, we won't agree on everything, but for the most part, we need to just come together and unite, because we're stronger united than divided. And so that's how I feel. I have friends who are Trump supporters. I have friends who at that time was Obama supporters, but it's those are just the relationships you have. I don't judge people on who they choose politically. I can't even say it correctly right now,
Yeah.
politically, but um, it's how they treat me. It's how they
Mhm.
are with me. It's not how That's how I judge people.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of that's what it's all about. I mean, you go back to what your just list was. That's all involving us with other people.
Mhm.
It's not about having possessions and money, really. Though, granted, they do tend to come. You treat people well, reciprocation does tend to come back multifaceted. But it's exactly that. It's I want to have a connection with you. I'm going to learn something from you, and we both going to be better off for it. And sometimes the thing we learn just might be I don't want to be like that. So and that's okay too. But the point is that we're trying to grow and become better, and that's really what our calling is to make a difference in other people's lives And one of the requirements doing that is obviously we need to be healthy and capable. And part of that is an expectation of we make ourselves better. We take care of ourselves to be able to help those around us. And that's just a necessity of life.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So, how do you define leadership, and what qualities do you think are important for a successful leader?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, it kind of goes back to some of the ones I just said. The
Yeah,
four really do apply. You
yeah,
have to be knowledgeable about what you're talking about, including a passion with it. You got to have the ability to, when you feel something inside, be able to get it out to the group, and as well as have the group be willing to do the same back to you. Because as you were saying before, you learn from other people, but if they're afraid to tell you stuff, you're not going to get better as an individual or as a team. So you have to foster relationships and say, hey, I'm not going to agree with everything you say, just as you ain't going to agree with everything I say, but I want to hear it. And yeah, there might be times that we're in the middle of something and we're focused on just one compartmentalization thing. But overall, I want to foster a situation where everyone can tell me things and be open to responding to them in return. And then obviously justice is I'm not playing favorites. I need this done. You're the best person for it, Bob. Bob, you're doing it. That's basically that's incredibly important because as soon as you start playing favorites in the office, you're killing incentive to do better from those that don't qualify under your favoritism. And it's a leadership, you've just basically turned off your ability to be successful. And then obviously that's all branded in the form of humility, knowing that you might not be the best at something. And that's why you bring someone else on and hiring them. We're not all the greatest at everything. We're the greatest in some things and probably pretty abysmal in other things. Now, most of us carve our life out to avoid the things we're abysmal at, which in the state of a business corporation, you should hire the best things to everyone and then don't make them do the things they're not good at and don't like doing. This is one of the reasons some sole entrepreneurs tend to get in trouble. The revenue stream of any business requires more than one personality. If you think about if you're a bakery, you need to get people to know your bakery exists and want to show up. When they're at your bakery, they have to be willing to give you money in exchange for a future product. And then your bread has to be pretty awesome too.
yeah.
There is no personality type that does all three of those. It just doesn't exist. And naturally, you're going to want to shy away from some of it. So you're better off bringing in people who are amazing at the parts you don't want to do and you're not good at, and you focus on whichever part you're amazing at. And this is why you bring in other people and other partners. It's how you grow success. And as a leader, that's what you have to do. You have to recognize this isn't my thing. I need someone who is that thing. And I'm not going to ask them to do my thing and vice versa. I don't want a weaker version of me. I want kind of the opposite of me. I want someone who's going to like doing the stuff that I hate doing because that person does exist. And I just want to have them on my
Absolutely. You need a strong team around you when you're building a business. It
team.
is no business is going to be built by itself. You're not going to build the business by yourself. You're going to need a teammates that, like you said, something that you're not good at, they excel at. And
Mhm.
obviously there's something you're good at that they're not good at, and you excel at that, then that's what you focus on. And you have your team focus on what they're good at and what they love to do. Because when you get people that love what they do, it's gold.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
gonna produce gold for you. And
Mhm.
so me, I have is me, my nephew Poppy J, and our other partner Brandy, and we all have our roles. We all know what to do. We all like Brandy's marketing. She's the one who's putting out our podcast on different platforms. She's the one who's all into all that.
Mhm.
I'm more into the content creating, the audio, the technical, the videos, and all stuff like that. Poppy does his thing, and it works. The dynamic works because we all have our strengths and our weaknesses, but we focus on what we are strong at.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, you just go to the revenue cycle. You got her doing the front half, you're doing the production half, and then I'm assuming you two overlap a little bit in the actual exchange of revenue for the future product. I mean that's how it works. An individual can do more than one of the responsibilities. It just means they're probably not naturally inclined to do all of them, and
Yeah,
that's nature.
of course. All right. Can you share tips on how to develop a growth mindset and achieve personal growth?
Yeah, I mean, it starts with confidence in yourself. And confidence in yourself can start from anything. See, that's confidence is this great and amazing thing that we have as human beings. It is basically the only universally attractive thing that every human being shares. The appreciation and desire of confidence. And it's oftentimes something to get within yourself, you need to earn it somehow. And this is where I say become knowledgeable about something, even if it's not something particularly popular or directly correlated to your job. So it doesn't matter, if it's Harry Potter or Harry or Jets. If you know every single thing about it, you'll be confident talking about all the various spells and stuff that Harry Potter does, and you'll find other people that share this passion, and it creates natural confidence coming out of you. And because human beings are in the long run incapable of compartmentalizing, whatever you build up in one capacity of your life will bleed over into the rest. That's good and bad. So if you have this innate confidence in this department over here, it will carry out over there. And it is a fantastic thing that we all have. So the first answer to that is you need to have confidence. That's how you create a growth mindset. The second thing that you need to have for a growth mindset is the knowledge that you are not meant to be everything to everyone. No business, no individual is meant to be that. And if you try to do that, you will burn yourself out and quit. Fundamental fact of life. So, what you need to be is realizing who am I amazing for and how do I become the best at that? And tunnel yourself in to that group. And that notion of tunneling into one specific group is scary to some people because inherently you're taking all of the outside off of the table. I don't want to sell to these people. I am selling to these people. But the reality is because you're becoming specialized in your group, you actually become better. More of your group wants you, opposed to very few people of a broad base. It's much better to be very good in a smaller base. And then once you have achieved maximum success there, then we can look at widening that base in which we're in. But it all starts with becoming the best in your base. And you really will realize that it's a boundless and endless opportunity if you are doing something that is truly the best in your industry.
Okay. All right. Um, how do you balance your professional and personal life, and what do you do to manage stress and maintain your well-being?
Yeah, I mean, you can't take care of if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anyone else around you. I mean, the airplane's tight. You got to put the mask on yourself before you put it on your kid. It's true with everyone. So the way that I do it personally is I recognize that if I stay in front of a computer screen all day, I will become like the most miserable person on the planet. And it all started because I know what my personality is I know what I honestly like and don't like doing. And so the first starting point was I identified this laundry list of things that did not jive with a happy version of me. And then I just went through in a very practical sense. Question one: what can be completely deleted from my life? Took all that stuff out. And that notion by itself is so liberating to any person who has never done it. Make an entire list of things that you don't want to do or don't like having in your life and get rid of them. Now, obviously, you can't take all of them out, like paying taxes and your electric bill. You still need to do that. But then it comes down to how can I automate those things out of my life so that they're taken care of, but they're never really the forefront of my mind again. And thankfully, technology is coming up with more and more answers for that kind of thing every single day. And then on the business side, I just outsource to corporations that are great at stuff that I'm not doing. So that's what I found business partners that were complementary to me. I hired them to make that part of my business better and so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, I kind of have either deleted, phased out, or outsourced the majority of things that I knew took me to a bad place, which essentially only left me the stuff that took me to a positive place. And when you're starting from that mentality and mindset, it makes everything else so much easier. So that was the first step of it. And then the second part of it was I now have an 18-month-old who's running around, and inherently just takes time out of the business day, and balancing that has been a really fun process of figuring out to be able to make it happen. So that's really how it started. Figured out the worst things, took them out as much as possible of my life, and I only left room for the goodness of it. And had I not done this and had this already implemented in my life before COVID, I would have been one of the many people out there that during the shutdown kind of imploded. But since I didn't, I already had these problems taken away. I was able to survive a pandemic and not have all these lingering problems still going after me.
Okay. So, what advice would you give someone who wants to start their own business or pursue a career in sales or business development?
So you got to, before you start any of that, you have to be comfortable with the commission lifestyle. And it's a very hard thing to do to articulate with someone without doing it. It's kind of like teaching someone how to ride a bike by just reading the instructions. I do try to articulate this in my book for that matter, but what you need to do is recognize that there are going to be times that there is more money coming in, and then there's going to be the question mark of, will I ever get paid again? And it will feel that way incredibly real. So fast rewind back to whenever I was 18, my first ever gig. I was selling knives through Cutco Cutlery. And I realized very quickly that when I was successful at a sale, I got paid so much more in terms of an hourly rate than anyone else in my age range even would have a possibility of. But the problem was that was one great sale. That was a fantastic night. When's the next one coming? And it's that mentality of saying, year in review, we got paid 10 times. It's more than everyone else around me. But there were gaps of time in between. I never knew I was going to get another paycheck again. So how do I balance the rest of my living expenses, gas, cars, the whole 9 yards, and be able to, still survive? Because if I can't drive to the next guy's house, I can't sell anything because I'm not there. So that is the mentality in which you need to figure out if you are capable of doing it. Does the lifestyle you're in give you the ability to say, if I don't get paid for 6 months, that go do to my bank account, to my brain, and all of that stuff? And it's a very real and honest conversation you have to have with yourself, because you're going to starting a business. By default, there's resources getting spent, if not else your time. There's a lot of economic resources you're spending, and there's no guarantee when that first check's coming back and when it will recover. So it really does come down to, do I have the stomach and the wherewithal to know that it's going to take a while? How am I going to react to it during the period of dryness? And it's real. I mean, there's a reason that a lot of businesses don't make it. And this is a big personal starting reason why. Less than 10% of this country lives off a commission lifestyle. But of that 10%, virtually all of them are in the top 2% of wealthiest people in this country. So for those that do it, the payout is huge. It's just a really scary ride to go on.
Yeah, because like you said, you don't know when that next check is coming. So you got to find a way how to balance your bank account with everything that is coming out of it, because electric bill is still always going to be there. Food bills always going, grocery bills going to always be there, gas, all these things. And so, yeah, being an entrepreneur and relying on sales to get you through, it's not an easy thing. You work much more harder when you're an entrepreneur and you have your own business than you would do working a 9 to 5. Because working a 9 to 5,
and that's one of the things that people can do to make their business better. I invite everyone to be in the commission lifestyle. Just the problem is there's not really a way to ease into it, right? Yep. What I tell people to do as business owners, if you want to get more results, because everything you just said was true. If I get more out of when I'm making it for myself than I do as a 9 to 5. But if you can figure out a way to correlate paying people based upon their results rather than the time they spend, you're much better off. So to give an example behind that, say you were in charge of a hotel, like your job is managing this hotel. And the only thing I really care about from my cleaning ladies is that They get the rooms to a certain level of cleanliness and the time it takes them to do it. So 2 criteria, perfect. How can I compensate them in a way that incentivizes them to do both? Well, if we created a little chart that said, for every room that you got done that was an A, I'm going to pay you this amount. A B, this amount, C, D, and whatever. And we're going to have different people judging you. Like the first floor has this lady judging you. The second floor has this guy judging you. So that way it's more impartial. It's not like you became friends with the judge. It's actual legitimate. And you let your people go and try to figure out how to clean the rooms themselves. You still get basic training, but you don't tell them you need to do the bathroom first, then you do the bed or whatever. You let them figure it out. You also don't need to do one room at completion. You can be working on 4 rooms at the same time. And every single one of your employees will figure out how to maximize themselves because their time is valuable. They will figure out how to do it as quickly as possible, and as well as how to maximize the return. Because at the end of the day, are you going to pay more on an hourly rate? Absolutely, 100%. But overall, you're probably going to pay less because they're not going to just be hanging around waiting for a paycheck. They're only paid based upon the results. So you are going to get the type of employee that wants to get it done quickly and does it well, because the other ones are going to phase themselves out. And as you're in hiring people and telling them this is how we do our payment system, you're going to naturally gravitate towards people who want to get the job done. It's a win-win across the board. Your employees have more time. They get paid more per hour, and they get more, like I said, they get more time with their family. You are getting a better result done quicker, which is the 2 things that you cared about for this position. Now, that is a direct entering into the world in a commission lifestyle. The problem is very, very few managers pay people like this. And this is one of the things I greatly encourage and teach my clients how to do this, because the other magical part of this is that employee is 1,000,000,000% happier. They're getting paid more and they're not forced to be here. You're no longer a place I have to be. You're a place I want to be to help and be everything. That's how you build a business culture to the max. And I really help people get through these hurdles, how to logistically make it happen. Fantastic things. We've given people so many benefits to their companies by handling this problem. And it really does open the doors for promotion within. You've already figured out who's got the fire and who doesn't. It's a beautiful thing to do.
Absolutely, man. All right, so we're done with the business questions because now we're both big football fans. You're a big Steelers fan. I'm a Giants fan. What are your thoughts on the current state of the NFL and its future?
Yeah, so as we're filming this here, it's week 2 of free agency.
Yeah.
And in the past, it used to be all of the top tier players went in the first couple days, and then we got to the next tier, and then we get to the people who were hurt last year and doing the tryout contracts. And it's amazing how much that has changed. The fear of the NFL of not having, as a player, not having a place to go seems like it's never been higher. The Steelers in the last 3 days have hired 4 people on you were injured last year tryout contracts. Essentially, that's what they are. And now they want to come here because there's an opportunity here. It's better for them. But I think that there's never been a type of urgency going around the league than there is right now from the player side of trying to be in the best spot. And there's a lot of reasons why, and there's a lot of reasons why I believe Pittsburgh is a more attractive place than anywhere else. Obviously, hometown bias. I live 10 minutes from the stadium. But if you're like for instance, if you're a wide receiver and you know that you have the ability to be the best thing ever, you're just not discovered yet, there are 2 prime spots that you should want to sign up for. You should want to go to the Giants because they go through 500 receivers a year. They always get hurt. We don't know why, but it's a fact. Or you should go to Cleveland because they don't have any money to afford any good receiver. And if you go there as a tryout, they got themselves a very good quarterback who will get you the ball. Either situation, there's an opportunity. Like, do I want to go to Minnesota where I'm going to be at best the 3rd string target? No. Do I want to go to Miami where I might not even hit the field? Or do I want to go to like New England, where as long as I'm slow and hit people, they'll give me the ball 20,000 times like Juju did? So I throw that out there because there is more transparency from what the front office is trying to accomplish to the players than there ever has been before, if you look at the contracts and don't listen to their words. So that's one of the things that I find fascinating with the current NFL, to the max. And the other thing that has become apparent is the notion of potential. While the word gets said a lot by all the writers, the teams don't care about it anymore. It is strictly, what are you now? What are you going to do for me? And I don't know if blame or give respect to is the right way to start that sentence, but Joe Burrow is the answer, because there was no "we're waiting for you to get good." It's, you took the worst franchise basically in the league, definitely bottom 5, and kept us from falling off the face of the earth again, as we should have, because Cleveland should have. With all due respect, after Dalton left, they should have returned to the old Bengals, and they didn't, because Burrow showed up, and now it looks like he's a powerhouse. And he even broke his leg with would have been career-ending injury in the 80s, and he came back and took his team to the Super Bowl after that. Like, all of that is amazing, but because of that, no one cares what you might be. I mean, we see the Raiders cutting a first-round pick after one season because he didn't have the work ethic to try to get better, and that was Leatherwood. And it has become more and more apparent that show up now, perform, and that's all that matters. This is a job of performance, and you're seeing in front offices, you're seeing in coaching staffs, you're seeing in players. And in that regards, I absolutely love it. Show up or get out. And, that's competition at its finest. And, that was a long way of saying I'm glad that the NFL's there, but they also do a lot of things that hurt them in the long run, especially with the way that they have a dichotomy. On the one hand, you better show up and be awesome. On the other hand, we're never going to really let you practice correctly. We're not going to let you hit each other. We're not going to let you truly get at it whenever it's time of development. And I think that their training camp rules and practice rules really put it at odds, that it makes it much harder for a guy who, potentially, if this was the 80s and he had time to develop, could have, but that guy doesn't exist anymore. It's either you show up amazing or you show out.
And Zach Wilson is a prime example of that. The Jets have been struggling on drafting quarterbacks before Zach Wilson was Sam Darnold. It's a league where either you show us what you got right now, like you said, or you're not going to be here in 2 years or a year or whatever it is. Because now, look, 2 years after drafting him, they're looking at trading for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, breaking down the Jets real quick, they do a lot of things wrong. The Jets care more about the PR statement than success. And I know this for a fact because they copied the Cleveland Browns. And there is one thing that's more dangerous than the Madden curse in the NFL, and that is who ESPN declares the winner of the offseason. I know this because Cleveland has won it like 6 times in the last 10 years. And then they always have a top 5 pick again. Because if you're only caring about the headlines and what the writers say about you, you're not going to build a successful team. This is why I look at the dichotomy of New York amazing. The Giants flat out said, we did every single thing we could do to ruin Daniel Jones. And they basically did.
Admitted, yeah.
And the Jets are like, that's not, we don't do anything wrong ever. The kid's wrong. We're going to go pluck a new one. Oh, and by the way, every single trait that we look for has been proven to be the wrong trait to look for. The Jets always acquire slow processing, big arm quarterbacks because I think that's what Josh Allen is up in Buffalo. It's not. You want to look at the most successful 2 quarterbacks in the NFL, it's Burrow and Mahomes. Incredibly quick, not really strong arms, but if they are standing a mile away from you, they can put it in your eye socket. They are accurate. And that's what matters to be in the NFL. Does your brain work quick, and are you accurate? Tom Brady made an entire career out of that.
Yep.
Like, you don't need to be able to throw the ball through a wall. This is not the John Elway NFL anymore. The Jets haven't figured that out. That's why every single quarterback they have drafted sucks. I mean, Darnold and Wilson are basically the same guy, and they're both horrible. Why is this mindset still taking over?
Yeah.
It's beyond me. Perplexing.
And you going to touch on the Giants. You're absolutely right. They did everything they can to ruin Daniel Jones. First, you hire Pat Schumer. He comes in, doesn't do anything. You come and bring in a special teams coach to be your head coach.
Because he was a Patriot.
You bring in a special teams coach to be your head coach, and then expect this quarterback to succeed when you have someone who doesn't know how to run a team, doesn't know. And being a head coach and being an offensive, there's people that are great offensive coordinators. Josh McDaniels is a prime example of that. He's a great offensive coordinator. He sucks at. You saw it the first time in Denver, and you're seeing it now in Oakland. Some people are not meant to be head coaches,
which is fine. It's a different skill set.
Yes,
that's the way it is.
And then you bring in someone like Brian Dable, who knows what it means to be a head coach. And
yeah, the thing with Dable that I love about him is he's not presenting himself as the only one in the room who has to be the answer man.
No.
He's one of the very few offensive coordinators that when they became the head coach didn't keep being the play caller.
Nope. He gave it to Mike Kafka.
That's like what got me here to this job, and it's the first thing he's relinquishing. Most of them fail the first 2 years and give it away as like a desperation move to keep their job. And almost certainly that's what ended up being what Josh McDaniels ends up doing. But when we see that, he wasn't there for that. He was there to make everyone better. Yeah, he has strong and very good offensive concepts that are getting implemented. But during that time on the sideline, it is more valuable for him to keep all of the troops in line and on the same page than it is to neglect that and call a play.
Yep.
And if you've trained your offensive coordinator right and everyone's on the same team, you don't need to be the one pulling all the strings. I mean, that's the way it is. And, there's a lot of things that went very well for the Giants, and, kudos to them, because there is no guarantee if you keep getting a top pick, things are going to work out. Again, we look at Cleveland. But, we look at this and say they have really turned it around because they put a better leader in place. And the other example of that is down south in Jacksonville. They have probably the worst coach in NFL history.
And
put a competent man in charge, and they win the division just like that. Basically the same roster.
Yeah, he had the talent was there. The talent was there. It's just that Urban Meyer was not an NFL head coach. Not so well. No, so and in Cleveland, they decide that they want to pay Deshaun Watson all this guaranteed money and screw everything else on your team. Like
screw everything else in the division too. Though.
Now Baltimore's feeling it now. Yes,
that's what I was going with that. Because Baltimore has really put themselves into a gigantic problem.
Of course, because you think about it, Lamar Jackson is a former MVP. He's done so much in the short time that he's been in the NFL, and he's looking at this man who just came back from a year suspension. Came back from all the negative.
Quit on his team before getting suspended too. Like that part never is getting forgotten. He quit on his team before he got suspended.
Yeah, he wanted to get.
That's a big deal.
So now he wants to get paid like this man's getting paid. He's like, yo, I've done so much more than Deshaun Watson in the short time I've been here in Baltimore. I want to get paid. Then you go.
That's true.
And then you got people in Arizona paying Kyler Murray money, and in there, you want to put a clause that you need to study more.
Yeah.
If you truly want to be the best at what you do, you have to study. So for you to tell your quarterback, who is supposed to be the leader of your team, that he needs to study more, that's just not right. There's something wrong with that.
Well, it's provable. And I do Local Football Flavor, which covers all 32 of the teams. And Kyler Murray has not tangibly changed since he's been a rookie. He is basically at the same skill set level. He has the same apprehensions he had as a rookie, the unwillingness to throw it in tight windows and the inaccuracies when he did. He has not improved at all 1 cent. Now, the thing with Jackson that needs to be stated is that when Jackson won that MVP, he was the only true running quarterback in the NFL. And the league really had no idea how to handle him. He was a spectacle, and he was confusing. It also did not hurt him that he was one of the few that beat Brady whenever he was still in New England. And what has happened to him every year since then, his yardage, both passing and rushing, has declined, as well as his total touchdowns created. So each year he has taken one step back, back, and back. And because he's not an accurate passer, the second he loses a step on his running game, he's out of the picture. Also, there's 3 different reports from Baltimore that said he was capable of playing the last 2 regular season games and the playoff game, and he chose not to because he wanted his money. Do you want the leader of your team to be more concerned about himself than the team? That's a major problem that the Hall of Fame coach on there needs to figure out, which, again, coming from Pittsburgh, John Harbaugh is a Hall of Fame coach. Yes. But the other thing that's happened is that basically a third, maybe a quarter of the quarterbacks in the NFL are now running quarterbacks. He's not an oddity to cover anymore. Defenses have specially brought in basically converted safeties to just spy him so he can't do anything. And bringing Kyler Murray in this full circle, the division opponent who likes hitting people, in Lamar's case, Pittsburgh, and in Murray's case, Seattle and San Francisco, they just hit him constantly. And then eventually he breaks down, either in that game or in one of the future ones, and then none of the results happen. So if you want to have a great team in September and October, you want to have Murray and Jackson, and to a degree, Tua. If you want to be able to win in the playoffs and get to the playoffs, they're the last you want on your list. I'd rather have Derek Carr than any of those 3. At the end of the day, has Derek Carr won a playoff game? I'm not sure he has. But I know that he will be there trying to get there and make things happen. I know Lamar only has 1 playoff win, and I know that Murray does not. So I look at this as, do I want someone who's going to be mentally all in the game and give his all, or someone's going to be caring more about his money? And to me, the answer is straightforward. I want a guy, a leader who cares about winning over money. And, thankfully, I'm a Steelers fan because people who aren't that way get kicked out. That's why Chase Claypool is not a Steeler anymore. That's why Juju's not a Steeler anymore. Unfortunately, we've had this problem because we've had a crazy person as a Hall of Fame receiver that we kept paying, but that's a problem that is still staining our organization half a decade later. And that crazy person was Antonio Brown, who will be a Hall of Famer. But that's a side story.
Listen, Pittsburgh is one of the few organizations that knows what the hell they're doing. Like, you've had 3 head coaches in your franchise, right?
Yeah, since '69.
Since '69, you've had Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin,
and all 3 of them are Hall of Famers.
Yes, and that's what Pittsburgh brings, is that consistency, and that's what involves in business too, is that consistency, is being consistent with what you do, and Pittsburgh is that. Pittsburgh is the model of consistency because they know what they're doing. The owners allow their football people to be football people, allows them to do what they know what to do. And so that's why I have the utmost respect for that organization, because they're winning every year. They haven't had a losing season in Tomlin's entire tenure.
The last losing season, I believe, I could be wrong on this, was the year that got us to draft Ben. And Ben was in the league for 17 years.
Yeah.
So that would have been almost 20 years ago now.
Yeah.
And I was under Cowher, obviously. But the thing that the front office and the ownership does is that they strictly judge the team and every member of the organization based upon the team's results. It's not that the GM has a different agenda than the coach. Like I believe it is in New York with the Jets. The GM feels his job is to sell tickets and keep the Jets relevant. The coach's job is to win. There's a lot of difference between those 2 answers. And that's why you see decisions that are made that are not best for the football team. Mm-hmm. And because that is the answer, we just want to win. You end up getting players drafted and recruited and saying, this guy's not a winner, take him off our board. And the Steelers are notorious for having one of the smallest draft boards entering draft day of any of the 32 teams. And it's because before we even talk about physical ability, your mental dash emotional state can get you deleted faster than anyone else. And that's just a fact of life. You don't show up. We very rarely have a diva. We just don't. We don't let them stay. Or they, more importantly, they never enter in the first place. And when we occasionally get one, and again, it's rare, they don't stay very long. And that's why we look at the people that we had. There's three of them that come to mind: Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, and Chase Claypool. They stand out because they were Steelers.
Yeah.
The exact same things the three of them did is commonplace in half of the league. And it's not a story if you do it in Oakland, because it happens all the time. A guy holding out with 2 years left wants paid more. Well, that doesn't happen because they tell you up front, we're not playing that. You go out and win, you perform, we'll take care of you, because they do that. I mean, TJ Watt's the highest paid defender in the world. Why? Because he makes results happen. He didn't try pushing his contract early. He said, I have 1 year left. I want to come back here, get this done now. And 1 year left is when Steelers do contracts. It's never 2 years out. It's never 3. It's 1 year out. That's the policy. There's no question in it. And it's been like that since 1994. So if you, and the thing is if your agent doesn't want to agree with that, we don't bring any of his people in. Like, the entire agency will get cut off. There was an article or Bruno's book that was written in 99 about how the Steelers literally destroyed this guy's agency because he was trying to push players to hold out sooner. And basically every single rookie he represented, not only did they take off their board, the rest of the league started to, because of the policies that they were trying to do off the field. Now, granted, some teams didn't listen to it, but some teams did. And as a result, there's a certain way we're going to conduct business, and you don't see every team following it, but the successful ones do. If you look at the three teams that are most closely molded to the Steelers, it is ourselves, obviously, the Packers, and because the Packers do the exact same thing. This is the policy. We have one truly crazy person that we have to placate, but we're done with it now. And that's the way it is. And then the third one, until they lost their way with three bad head coaches in the world, were the Giants. When the Giants are at their best, they have themselves a stable leader who doesn't take anyone's crap.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Coughlin, Parcells, it's the way it is.
Yeah.
And that's what Daboll really is at the end of the day. He doesn't need to be like Urban Meyer calling people out at press conferences. He's consistent throughout. And that's why the Giants are going to come back. And by the way, that's why the Cowboys are about to implode again. This is a two-horse division now. One team's wearing green, one team's wearing blue. The other two don't bother to apply. And since the NFC is so weak, they're in the playoffs every year. So is Detroit now too, which is kind of nice.
Well, Detroit's got some. They've got some talent there. They got some players there. They got Dan Campbell. Got them on the right page. They're looking good. The Detroit Lions are looking pretty good. I think they might be the cream of that division.
I think they are too, because when we look at what Campbell has brought there, he's brought in consistency. Mm-hmm. He didn't change when he was 3 wins the year before when he was during that 8-game winning streak at the end of the year. He was the same guy. Difference, less guys got hurt this year, which was obviously better.
Yeah.
And I love his answer going in that final game of the year. Whether we win and go to the playoffs or they lose and don't go to the playoffs, they ain't going to the playoffs. I think it was my favorite answer ever. It might have been my favorite non-Steelers game I watched the entire year, was whenever Detroit knocked Green Bay out of the playoffs in the final regular season game. But there's something about that just says, hey, I'm in this with you. I'm not away from you. I'm not ignoring the reality we're living in. Because we interviewed a guy from Detroit recently saying that basically every other coach prior to Campbell didn't want to acknowledge the fact that their team always lost. And Campbell's like, guys, I get this. I was one of those players during the losing time, but you guys are hearing the same thing. Everyone knows this is real. Let's just actually address it like adults. And it's crazy. You do that. People are able to say, okay, this happened. It wasn't bad. It didn't happen to us. And we move on.
Yeah.
And it is something that is tremendously powerful if you can take an adult mindset like that and do it. You look at another example where that happened this year was the Cowboys. They hadn't won a road playoff game since like 92 or something like that. And they all basically said, I wasn't even alive then. Like, why are you trying to put this on me? What I'm going to do is break Tom Brady and make his last game in the NFL horrible. And that's what they did.
Yep.
Granted, they completely lost next week, but still, they went out on won that game despite what their history was.
Yeah.
And history, if you don't like it, you can recognize that. I'm an adult. I'm willing to change. I'm capable of changing, and I want to change. Or you can say, hey, this is successful. I'm going to keep doing it. Where we see failure and repeated failure is, I know I'm right. Ignore all the results. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing that. All right, Sam Darnold and Zach Wilson. Let's see who the next one's going to be, because it's the way it is. And that's the difference of being arrogant versus humility and being honest to really look at your results.
Okay. All right, man. Joe's been great speaking to you. Now it's time of the show where you get to plug away, talk about your new book that you're working on. So here you go.
Yeah. So, like I said, the book will be out here at the second half of the year. We're in the part here of finishing up the actual editing it and all that fun stuff. So that will be coming out. Like I said, check out Father and Joe. We do know that it helps those who listen to it and practice it. The more that you can look at the relationships of your life, starting with the relationship of yourself, and then how it impacts those around you, it just is a tremendous multiplier effect that all starts with realizing that I am here to help people. I want to make a difference, and I can make a difference. And that's something I really encourage people to become a part of, to listen to it. It comes out every Tuesday. It's on every single directory that you could find. It's an audio only one, so you're going to have to get it on your phone. But, obviously Apple, Spotify, the whole 9 yards. So we really invite people to come check that out. And when the book does come out, we will obviously give you guys a link here to come check us out. But it will be on the website, Elite Business Conversations. And that's where you can reach out to me as your business. If you're in a spot where, something I resonate with, you'd want to implement into your business. Everything I talked about is who I am. It does not change regardless of where I'm at. So if you want to have your business be more successful and give you either more time, push an agenda you want with your business, or more profitability, that's what we help businesses do. We overcome the fear and torture that it's not going to run tomorrow and the whole thing's going to die and my entire life is over now. We take all of those fears and we teach you how to remove them. Because rather than feeding you once, we teach you how to fish. And we teach your business to be successful, who to value, how to value them, and how to take it to the next level. And then we do that through sales, through business development, and through business culture. So again, that's Elite Business Conversations. You can go in there, you can click a link. And as well as for any speaking engagements to have me talk to either your company or a group that you represent, that's where you can find out more information as well. It's at elitebusinessconversations.com. And once again, I thank you for letting me be on your show here again. I loved it the first time, and I'm glad I'm back, man.
Man, I appreciate you coming back on the show, man. This was actually, I enjoyed this conversation. I enjoyed the first conversation, but I feel like we had a little bit more fun on this one, and we really got to really get into it. But I appreciate you coming by, man. It was great having you on again, brother. Maybe you come on for a third time when you release the book, and we can talk about the book and help you promote the book as well.
Well, that sounds like a plan. I'll see you guys here in the second half of the year.
Sounds good to me, but don't leave just yet, brother. I'm gonna close out the show, give out my shout outs, and then we'll chat a little bit off air.
Fair enough.
All right. So now it is time for shout outs. Shout out to everybody who's watching us on YouTube, the BS3 network, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn. Shout out to everybody out there. Shout out to my Real Wise fam, Poppy J, Brandy J. Love you guys. Big shout out to the boss lady, Fina. Appreciate you, baby. Love you. Big shout out to Joe Rockey for coming through and sharing his knowledge and sharing what he's doing out there and all the positive impact he's doing out there. And as always, a big shout out to all the essential workers out there. God bless y'all. Be safe. You know how your boy Wise does it. Peace out.